Ohio lawmakers wrap up their work for 2024 with a flurry of activity. Ahead on Face the State, it was a fast-paced finish to the so-called lame duck session of the 135th Ohio General Assembly. Legislators worked up to the last minute, hoping to pass dozens of bills. Some got through, others did not. We'll break down what happened with some of the big ones, including the Parents' Bill of Rights, Braden's Law to combat cases of sextortion, and a proposed pay raise for elected officials. State Senator Rob McCauley joins me to give his perspective, and our reporter roundtable weighs in on the major developments and what to expect in the new year. Plus, as the lame duck session was coming to an end, a bipartisan group of lawmakers started a push to end lame duck sessions altogether. Hear why. Face the State starts now. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. It was a whirlwind few weeks that ended with a session that lasted into the wee hours of Thursday morning. Ohio lawmakers wrapped up their business for 2024, passing a late flurry of bills and putting others off, at least for now. One of the major bills we've been following passed in both the House and Senate. Lawmakers approved House Bill 8, also known as the Parents' Bill of Rights. It's been a controversial topic among LGBTQ+ advocates. A senator told us the legislation protects parents and schools, but LGBTQ+ advocates say it has the potential to harm some students. Under the bill, school districts have to notify parents of any change in a student's services. This includes counseling or anything to do with their physical or mental health. The bill also now requires school districts to make sure any sexuality content is age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate. But some believe this could be dangerous for LGBTQ+ students who confide in school professionals about their sexuality.
A teacher would have to inform a parent about a student's sexuality or gender identity, which is forced outing and will be dangerous, very dangerous for LGBTQ youth.
We've had multiple hearings on this to make sure that the process is done right and correctly, and that there's plenty of input on the bill, and I think that's where we are.
An amendment to the bill also requires Ohio school districts to allow students to leave school during the day for religious instruction. As of the taping of this show, Governor DeWine had not signed the bill into law or vetoed it. The legislature also overwhelmingly supported and passed Braden's Law, a bill 10 TV has covered from the very beginning. It makes sextortion a felony crime in Ohio with extended prison time. But lawmakers removed a key provision regarding victim compensation from it. The bill is named after Braden Marcus, who went to Olentangy High School. He was the victim of a financial sextortion scam in 2021. It drove him to take his own life at just 15 years old. The bill creates the offense of aggravated sexual extortion. The bill had included compensating families of sextortion victims under 18 who die by suicide. A member of the Judiciary Committee said the Attorney General's office needs more time to work out how the compensation provision should be handled. The attorney for the Marcus family told me they are happy the core of the bill passed, but disappointed about the compensation part being removed.
We were so close before that I'd say this is an expected step today to pass this part of the legislation. I do say it's a bit of a sidestep, if not a backstep, to not have the victims language in the statute at this time.
We felt that this was a better discussion for the budget, so I've certainly pledged with the sponsors and the proponents and others that we will continue working on this and hopefully be able to get something done this coming budget.
Fallour says he is encouraged the door is still open on that aspect of the bill. Braden's Law has been sent to the governor.
Misuse of technology from offenders has been happening for quite some time.
And that's why organizations that help domestic violence victims and survivors are praising a new law. Governor DeWine signed the bill on Thursday. Supporters say it could help law enforcement with stalking cases and maybe even save lives. The new law makes it illegal to put a tracking device, such as an Apple AirTag or a tracking app, on another person's property without their consent. The statewide Ohio Domestic Violence Network says more than 80% of the advocates in their member programs have worked with clients who have been stalked by a tracking app or tracking device. The law closes a loophole in the state's stalking law.
We have stalking law right now, but you have to show a pattern of behavior. And so with this bill, and once this is in our code, your first offense is breaking the law.
If you can take the tracker into evidence, you actually have something to point to prove that it occurred.
The first offense would be a first-degree misdemeanor with a maximum sentence of 6 months in jail. Now to a couple measures we have followed closely that failed to make it out of the legislature. Lawmakers will have to try again to regulate or ban the sale of intoxicating hemp products. In April, Governor Mike DeWine urged the legislature to ban them, saying the products are widely unregulated and can be found disguised as candies and gummies. Lawmakers and other elected officials across the state also will not be getting a bigger pay raise than scheduled. They had been having discussions about bumping the annual raise up to 5% for each of the next 4 years. It will not be going forward. Lawmakers can reintroduce failed legislation in the new General Assembly next year. Joining me now to talk about the session is Senate Majority Floor Leader Rob McCauley of Napoleon. He will also be the new Senate President in the next General Assembly. Senator, first of all, congratulations on that, and thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doug.
I really do appreciate your time. Senator, did you accomplish what you wanted in the lame duck session?
Well, I think anytime you get to the end of any legislative session, there are certain things that you hoped you had a little bit more time to get across the finish line. And unfortunately, we're not able to. But I do think a lot of stuff that had been hanging out in either chamber that had some process to it and that had support in both chambers was able to get across the finish line. But at the same time, I think we're going to be starting relatively early in the next General Assembly, working on some of the items that didn't quite make it, and trying to see if we can get some hearings on those pretty quickly.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but what was the biggest thing for you that got through in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, there's a variety of things. You talked about some of it. The Parents' Bill of Rights, I think, is something that was important to both caucuses, both Republican caucuses, and frankly, just the simple notion that parents deserve to know what's happening to their kids in the school buildings. I know there's been some pushback from certain groups. But I think I speak as a parent, and I think I represent most parents who would say, if my child is going through some stuff in the school buildings and my child is receiving certain counseling or certain treatment, I have a right to know that as that child's parents. And I think that would be something that would be widely agreed upon. And then as the religious leave time is concerned, this has been something that has been on the books as something that school districts have been allowed to do for quite some time, and many school districts have done this successfully. It's also something that has been supported by Supreme Court precedent as not being a violation of church and state, despite the fact that some people have asserted that it has been. And it's something, quite frankly, that as well as empowering parents and families to make the best decision that is in the best interests of their children, and trying to enhance and broaden their educational opportunities during the school day.
Opponents, you talked about it a little bit. Opponents of the Parents' Bill of Rights say that it could lead to the outing of LGBTQ plus students and put them in danger. What do you say to those who worry about that possibility?
I don't think that is as big of a problem as most people think it is. Quite frankly, again, if I am a parent and somebody is beginning to counsel my child on whether they feel that they are a different gender than maybe they were born with, or whether they feel like they may be having different feelings than what they would typically have, I have a right as a parent to know that. That's not something that should be done in the darkness of the school administration. That's something that I, as a parent, have a right to know, and that's something that we should be allowing for parents to figure out for their own children at the end of the day.
On another topic, Senator, why were lawmakers not able to come to an agreement to regulate intoxicating hemp products?
Well, I think this is something we've discussed for quite some time. After the passage of Issue 2, obviously, which legalized marijuana, and then some of the ensuing conversations regarding hemp after that, the Senate has been pretty vocal that we need to do something, particularly in the hemp space. There's many loopholes. There are many loopholes in the in Ohio's hemp law that allow for intoxicating hemp to be even sold to minors, which is ridiculous that we couldn't come to some sort of agreement with the House that would allow us to regulate this. Frankly, the fact that young people are able to purchase this stuff, and even in some cases at convenience stores, number one, shame on those convenience stores for selling these products to minors. But number two, it's something that we should be common sense to say we don't want that to happen. And unfortunately, we weren't able to come up with a final compromise. That'll be something that will be top of mind as we enter the next General Assembly to make sure that we can put some guardrails around this, because even though it is not regulated marijuana per se under our marijuana laws, it is something that very much can have a similar or even a more drastic impact on you than marijuana itself. So we need to bring this into line and put some guardrails around it.
Do you think that will be pretty early in the next GA?
Absolutely. I think it will be something the Senate will begin having hearings on potentially in the first month.
Now, under your leadership as Senate President in the next General Assembly, what will your priorities be?
Well, we have a number of issues to work on. Chief among them is, what is our energy policy going to be in the state of Ohio? Obviously, the PJM, our 13 state plus Washington, D.C., Grid Monitor has come forward and saying they have concerns over the long-term viability of our electric supply here in the state of Ohio and in the entire PJM footprint. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Primarily, it's the early retirement of many of our generation assets, coal plants that are going offline before the end of their useful life. And unfortunately, some of the policies that have been in place over the last 4 years have prevented new generation from a large baseload context, such as natural gas plants, from coming online. And as a result, we have a dwindling supply and a potential shortage that could be coming up. So we need to figure out a policy that will incentivize that kind of development in Ohio, which will also lead to more economic development from companies beginning to look at Ohio to increase investment.
We just have about a minute left, Senator. Will you do things differently than Senator Matt Huffman, who is now moving over to be Speaker of the House?
I think there will be some things that are done differently. A lot of them will be in the administration and behind the scenes in the Senate. By and large, I think Matt Huffman did a very good job as Senate President. He was very good at delegating to the members of the Senate and trusting their judgment on certain issues and letting them come up with solutions on behalf of the caucus. He was also very good at setting the tone and leading. And so I would hope to continue some of that stuff, but there will be some things behind the scenes that will be done differently for sure.
Well, best wishes on your new position and congratulations once again. And I do want to say once again, thank you for your time today and happy holidays.
Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate it, sir. Well, still ahead on Face the State, our Reporter Roundtable. I'll be joined by a couple veteran State House reporters to break down what happened in the lame duck session and some things to watch for in the new General Assembly next year. And later, why one lawmaker calls the lame duck sessions of the legislature lame. Now, he and other lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are pushing to eliminate lame duck sessions in the future. And welcome back to Face the State. We're focusing on the big happenings of the end of the 135th Ohio General Assembly. A new General Assembly starts in January. Joining me now to discuss it are Joe Ingles, who is a State House reporter and producer for Ohio Public Radio and Television, and Jeremy Pelzer, politics reporter for Cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer. Thanks for coming in again.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Appreciate it. All right, so first of all, this is my first lame duck session covering the legislature. Was this a typical one with how much activity happens?
It was. I like to joke that the legislature passes bills like I pass college. They wait till the last 3 days and then they work 20 hours in a day to get everything through. But this is fairly typical. Actually, this was a bit less high profile than in some other lame duck sessions. I think the lame duck session before this, lawmakers went to a holiday party, came back, and worked until 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so this was actually a little bit more tame than
They only
usual
went till
dogs.
2.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
How about for you, Joe? Pretty typical?
I think so. I think they accomplished more than what I thought they were going to get accomplished going into it. But, the Republicans are coming back. So they have all the time in the world after the first year to accomplish things that they didn't get done now. So I thought there were some things they would put off, give more time to, but they didn't. And I think the big thing to watch now, 6 months from now, let's see how many correction bills are coming through.
When you have so many changes and amendments, that is typically the case on this. Do you think, what do you think that the big 1 or 2 issues was that came out of here? Does the Parents' Bill of Rights right up there at the top?
I think the Parents' Bill of Rights and the bill that allows groups like LifeWise, Christian-based education, to come in to kids out of school, with parents' permission, by the way, during a school day. I think that played into it. I think that was huge. One thing that I think was big was, and it was an attachment to an elections bill that was had bipartisan support until this happened, but there was the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, who is right now Dave Yost, through passage of a new bill, has the ability to take into consideration the title of petitions in the future. That will make it harder.
You're talking about citizen-led petitions.
Citizen-led petitions. That will make it harder for citizens to put something on the ballot in the future if they disagree with their legislature. And right now, that is one of the things that citizens have in their back pocket if they're not in the majority.
How about for you, Jeremy? What issue or 2 stuck out?
The 2 that stuck out to me beyond what we talked about is, one, they passed a bill, we'll see if DeWine signs it, expanding when schools can hand out year-long suspensions. And under the bill, if you write a manifesto that's threatening, or you have a hit list, or do a threatening social media post, you could get slapped if you're a student with a year-long suspension under this bill. Right now, under Ohio law, you can't. The other one is something that will affect a lot of people, is about driver's license suspensions. And it will really curtail and limit when courts can suspend driver's licenses. Right now, about 1 million Ohioans have their licenses suspended, and 60% of them are about debts. And so if this bill is signed into law, you can no longer have your license suspended because of a debt or a drug crime or something like that.
Do you mean a debt, like in terms of owing for?
Like court costs, for example, yes.
Okay. We see what they call Christmas tree bills in a legislative session like this, lame duck, when it comes in. Is that one of the typical tactics? It's where they, there's a bill that has a main title maybe, and then at the very end, a bunch of amendments are thrown on it to decorate the Christmas tree.
The fact that we have a slang term for it shows how prevalent it is. It's a very favored tactic. Everyone has, every lawmaker has their own bills that they want to get passed. Sure. And when they see a bill leaving the station, they want to do everything they can to throw their bill on the train as it's headed out. And that's what is headed here. The main reason that lawmakers went till 2 a.m. is because they passed House Bill 315 that they unveiled and completely rewrote after 1 a.m. and then had a couple of very hasty floor votes around 2:15 in the morning to pass this bill. They added a whole bunch of things, from medical free speech to just a whole bunch of stuff that they added in there.
And then that brings up the argument also under the Constitution about the bills that should only have one subject. And so, depending on how controversial they are, I guess, they could be challenged or whatever. But one political analyst did tell me that the definition of one subject here in Ohio has been stretched really far to be able to include these things.
If the subject is that they are all definitely parts of bills, that is one subject. But other than that, I think it's a big stretch to, this is a 440-page bill that they passed after 2 a.m. It had all sorts of things on a whole wide variety, and I think it would be very difficult to argue that they are connected and are of one subject.
And we're still trying to figure out all those things too, because I know there was something passed that deals with getting police body camera, and it would affect, being able to get freedom of speech, know what's happening, make people pay for that kind of thing. So that was kind of thrown around at the very end. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that one.
Well, so it would require people to pay $75 an hour to get this body cam footage. Yeah. And the reasoning behind it, I talked to Dave Yost yesterday, and he said the reason is you have these YouTubers and social media influencers. They want to get this for their show. And they, if you're a member of a police station, you can't just, like with most public records, go and just pull the file. You have to go find all the video and put it together and edit it. And redact it, exactly. And so that is worth $75 an hour, because it's not just they have to go to a file and forward an email or something like that. That was the rationale.
But will it impact organizations like ours that are the media traditional?
Not just the media, but I know the ACLU is up in arms about this too, because it's harder for everyday citizens, if they feel they've been aggrieved, to get a copy of what's a public record. They have to pay $75 or even more.
Yeah.
Well, we just have a couple of minutes left, so I want to look ahead a little bit now after the flurry of activity here in the lame duck session. Joe, what are you watching in terms of expectations for 2025?
Well, I'm still watching to see what lawmakers do, if anything, about property taxes, because I talk to people all the time. That seems to be a #1 issue among folks, and they want to know if there's going to be something that's going to lower their property tax, because every time they lower the income tax, schools, municipalities, they depend even more on those property taxes, and a lot of people can't afford to stay in their homes anymore.
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
You take from one bucket and the other bucket gets hurt too. Jeremy, how about for you?
You and Senator McCauley touched on a couple of them. Delta 8, of course. Energy policy is going to be a big subject next year. And then, of course, we have to do a new state budget as well. That's often good. They often throw a whole bunch of policy in there, so it's not just about what state government agencies get what funding, but also there's often a tax cut in there and a whole bunch of other stuff. Money for the Cleveland Browns might be in there. You never know.
A Cleveland area representative told me that it's unlikely the state would give money, but we'll see.
We'll see.
You
never know.
Talk about popular professional sports and popular teams like that.
I don't know how popular they are.
And the budget stuff too has to be. They have time, right? That usually happens in June, I believe, right?
They pass it by June. They start usually in late January, February, and then they hold hearings, and then they get. Again, they often wait till the last minute to get the final revisions in place, and then they'll usually pass something, because the fiscal year ends at the end of June. After that, you might have a government shutdown, just like we see on the federal level.
Okay, with that, we'll end with that, Joe, because we'll see what happens coming up in the new year. Joe Ingles from Public Radio and Jeremy Pelzer from Cleveland.com. Thank you both for your insight today. Appreciate it. Well, coming up next on Face the State, it is a month of nonstop activity with dozens of old and new bills being worked on at the State House at a faster pace. Why some lawmakers think lame duck sessions between an election and the new year should be a thing of the past. As the Ohio General Assembly's lame duck session was coming to an end, some lawmakers introduced a bill to end lame duck sessions once and for all in the future. One of the bill's sponsors told me there's basically not enough time to thoughtfully consider the vast volume of bills coming through. Over the last few weeks, the Ohio House and Senate worked on dozens and dozens of bills in committee and in sessions. Lame duck sessions happen every 2 years in that period between an election and when the new legislature takes office in the new year. 12 Democrats and 5 Republicans signed on to the bill. State Representative Sean Brennan told me why he believes it's time for these lame duck sessions to end permanently.
Because they're lame. They're throwing a lot of things, a lot of bills on a lot of subjects with a lot of amendments, and it's just not a good way of governing. Not only is it next to impossible for members to keep up on everything, but it's not fair to members of the public.
Well, thank you so much for watching today. Hope you have a great day and a great holiday season. I'm Doug Petcash. We'll see you next time for Face the State.